dollar-denominated domestic debt restructuring. Here's a story in the middle of the Ghanaian Times. It's also on the front page here. And so page 12 of the Ghanaian Times, the story is in here. I think it's also carried on the BNFT as well. Yes, it's there on page 7 of the BNFT. So government to exchange $809 million to bring Ghana on a path of debt sustainability. As part of efforts to bring the country on a path of debt sustainability, the government has announced a new domestic debt exchange program, DDEP, for dollar-denominated bonds involving the exchange of about $809 million of the denominated notes and bonds. Now, the existing bonds should have matured between November 2023 and 2026, but are being replaced with new ones, which would mature in the years 2027 and 2028 to give the government some financial reprieve. Now, this is where we find ourselves. I think maybe a lot of people would have felt a certain sense of relief since their dollars were not being touched. But now, it's happening. Let me start with you. What you think? What you make of this?
Well, I think our experience with the DDs and how they've been managed so far indicates that one, they are inevitable because there are conditionalities underpinning our ECF with the IMF.
Okay.
And for me, we've already boxed ourselves into this hole. A lot has to do with how leadership navigates its way through building consensus and then valuing buy-in instead of imposing, conditions on people, as we've seen in the past. I think that by now the finance minister's previous approach of being, dictatorial, might have lessened a bit, and that we'll see a different approach now. The banks, the financial institutions are waiting for the proposal. Hopefully, in the next couple of days, we should see government proposal. What we want to see is a finance minister who demonstrates in real terms commitment to engaging, real engagement, engaging, seeking buy-in, than just be issuing orders and imposing, policies. I think that it is possible to have it done. Because as I said, we have no option. But the most important thing is that we must strategize and ensure that we have the acceptance and buy-in of the key players within the finance sector, so that its implications, and most importantly, the mitigating strategies. To what extent will this affect, the strength and of these institutions? And when the strength of the institutions are affected, it can also negatively affect customers like us. And so the mitigating strategies are also very, very important. All of this should be discussed, in an open environment without the finance minister, imposing decisions on others.
Well, Duncan, I don't know what you make of this.
We are not out of the woods. That's all it says. People would have thought, like my brother indicated earlier, that probably the turbulence will be over. What this is only indicating is that those with dollar bonds would have to wait for 2027 to probably get any repayment to them. What I always say is, if I have money I cannot probably lay hands on today, tomorrow is not promised me. So indirectly, even if some of them were to agree, you are just telling them that you probably are not going to have your money. They will have their money maybe at a much later date. But what is the genesis of all these problems? Sometimes we tend to blame external factors unjustly for things that we have internal control over. You've been borrowing, we are still borrowing. If you listen to news on your own network most of the time, we've been able to raise, 2 billion. We've gone to whatever, things are oversubscribed and people have put in their money so that government can have the space. What do we do with these funds? What do we do? So if we go take the money and don't invest in capital projects, that have the tendency to pay back, within a period, and we borrow to consume, we are simply telling our creditors, right, that at the end of the day, look, your money to Ghana is probably into a leaking basket because we're not doing anything profitable with your monies. It gets to a point when we should pay you back your money. We'll have to come back to you with a certain, exchange program. I'm not sure this is what the people signed up for. And like my brother had indicated earlier, if the finance ministry finds it prudent, it should go to these people, with a certain body language that says, look, we got it wrong.
Yeah.
Until they admit that they got certain things wrong, you are not even confident they will get it right tomorrow. Because it's like, it's not our fault, it's Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah.
The last time I had a conversation with somebody about this Russia-Ukraine thing, about fuel price, I told them to take their phone and check how much fuel sells in Ukraine as of today.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised to know that the country that is taking the bombs, morning, afternoon, evening, is selling at the same price that Ghana sells fuel to its people. The one taking the bombs, morning, afternoon, evening. That is an European country. European countries ordinarily have higher fuel costs because they also pay higher wages to their people.
Yeah.
How much do we pay to our people and how much are we charging them for fuel? So until we stop making excuses for problems that we create internally, right? These domestic debt exchange programs are not going to go away until we come to a realization that our own choices as a people, buying new V8s, when private people use their V8s for 10 years, in the government sector, a minister uses for 2-3 years and is old.
Yeah.
So we need to replace. Unnecessary spending. Look at the travel cost to the state. I'm sure if they did away with some of these frivolous, vexatious expenditure, they will be able to look the people in the eye and say that, look, certain things are not right. We've invested your monies probably in hospitals. Here are the projects. Give us a year or two more, we'll be able to pay. But this one, it's like, just give us time, indefinite. 2023, give us 4 more years to start paying your dollar, bonds. I'm not too sure that Ghanaians will receive this with any glee or happiness, but clearly, until those managing the finance sector admit that there's a problem, admit that we need to cut back on the vexatious expenditure, we need to be prudent in the way we manage our resources. When you get prudent, Kweku, it will be easier to look Kofi Asare in the eye and say, look, my brother, we are trying everything, but it's not working, so you help us. That at that point, he feels like he's sacrificing to make the issues better. But whilst he is sacrificing, you are still spending. You are still borrowing. So I don't know, but I'm not too sure that people are going to be excited on a Monday morning like this, especially to be hit with 2027, 4 more years. Really, not the very best of news.
I guess sometimes you put your money in dollars because you think that it's a safer place, to protect your money.
It's not just about the currency; it's about where the money is stored.
Once it's stored with the government, they are not safe. Meanwhile, it used to be the safest you could probably put your. It's bad. It's bad. And the finance minister, like I have said, what I am even picking from the budget to be read soon is that if Ghanaians are not lucky, I am picking very deep intel. There will be newer taxes, petrol taxes would come. But we would send a caution here.
Okay.
He should dare us, we'll dare him this time. It's already crazy. We are trying. When you get to austerity, what governments across the world would do will be to rather, provide support, reliefs. But when you are into austerity and you are taxing them more, you are simply shattering people's livelihoods. This is going to be crazy on people. But beyond this, if you're getting news of attempts also to slap more taxes on petrol, which is already high, then the insensitivity, the misalignment, he's probably not diagnosing the problem properly to be able to proffer solutions properly. If he doesn't do this and continue on that tangent where let's collect, right? What we owe you, we won't pay you. Pay more. Where is the money going to come from?
Anyway, Any further quick thoughts you had on this before we go?
I think we have no option because this is one of the key conditions in the IMF program. We are supposed to do this DD2 before we qualify for the next tranche, and we cannot afford to miss out on the next tranche in October. If you look at the scale of approaches governments adapting for this austerity, this IMF program, you realize that much more of the policy decisions are the ones that the citizens are supposed to endure. So the not suffering, but then let me say the sacrificing policies are many. And you have very few from government. So this DD is one of the sacrificial policies from the side of government. I mean, for going to the citizens, all the taxes that have been passed and the ones that are about to come are all meant, are geared towards citizens, sacrificing.
And I don't particularly think...
So that balance is not there.
Yeah,
They're not
I
getting
don't
the
particularly
balance.
think that citizens would have had so much angst about this if people felt that government was more committed to also sacrifice.
On government side, you don't see the
don't
sacrifice.
see-
Government will tell you that
I think-
some minister salaries have been cut by
10%.
some 10%, and
But
then
what does that even mean?
petrol.
Petrol allowance.
When they're reshuffling and
Those
on.
are peanuts. I mean, those are peanuts.
Your
We
finance
can't
minister
have-
doesn't take, salaries. So what are you
those are
cutting?
peanuts that don't even merit a discussion.
Yeah.
Those are peanuts.
True.
You understand?
True.
So you're not getting any sense of government ready to
We
balance
still have the same number
scale
of
of
ministries
suffering.
when they're reshuffling everything.
Look,
happens,
we are even
So,
in this year's budget. We saw allocations to recruit even more people under the Office of Government Machinery, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So government has not demonstrated in any way that it wants to, apart from the restructuring of Agenda 111. Okay, apart from that one, which has been restructured to completed in 2027 or so. Apart from that, government hasn't demonstrated any real, commitment to cutting down on expenditure on its part. We saw what happened when we went to Asenov. We saw the display of opulence.
The money is there.
So government's posture hasn't convinced me that it is in austerity. It is the citizens who are in austerity, and that posture must change.
okay.